Welcome back to a Valley Sports Club Phoenix Suns recap for November 16th through November 28th. I am Chris Patrick, and with me, as always, Mr. Michael Benjamin, here to break it all down for you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. During that 7-game span, the Suns would go 6-1, starting out on Wednesday, November 16th, where they would be taking on the Warriors at home, getting the win 130-119. Next, it was off to Utah to take on the Jazz Friday, November 18th in a shocking loss, 133-134. Had a chance to win it at the end, but Damian Lee just couldn't get it done. It was back at home Sunday, November 20th to take on the Knicks, where we would get the win 116-95, no problem. Tuesday, November 22nd, also still at home, the Lakers we would take on, getting the win 115-105. Friday, November 25th, where the Suns would take on the Pistons and get the win 108-102. I think a little bit closer than a lot of us would have liked and would have expected, but we'll take the win. Then back at home against the Jazz, this was our revenge game, and we got our revenge, beating them by 1 point this time, 113-112. And last, on the road Monday, November 28th, the Suns would take on the Kings in Sacramento and get the win 122-117. So, Michael Benjamin, I'm going to pass it over to you for some more stats and breaking down the last 2 weeks.
Last time we were here was a little bit tough. With all the injuries this team is already dealing with and players not coming to be a part of this team doesn't fold, and they're ready to fight this season for sure. I mean, that first game we already saw, we overcome Stephen Curry with 50 points. Overall, all Suns contributed. The starters, all of them had over 13, 3 starters with over 20 points. Deandre Ayton did struggle a bit, but I'm sure we'll get to where he's been at the past 3 games. But our one loss of the time frame in Utah, Devin Booker put on a show, 49 points, but it just wasn't enough. Lauri Markkanen basically matched him step by step of his own. And contributions from guys off the bench like Beasley, he had 7 threes. And Utah shot 16 of 31 from deep, which just did us in, even though we had a shot to take that game at the end. The Knicks did what we had to do, had consistency from campaign, and Damian Lee, who's been a very big contributor off the bench over these past 2 weeks. And then we saw our dreaded rivals, the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, I don't know if you can really call them our rivals anymore. Ever since the back down move of LeBron James and you see Andre Drummond in the back, the Lakers are 0-11 against us since that photo. So not really our rivals anymore. Anthony Davis did have a big game, 37 and 21 rebounds, but Bridges matched him. He went 5 of 7 from deep in that game. And Damian Lee, once again, 15 off the bench, just doing what he has to do when he steps on the floor. Then we saw what ended up being the Western Conference Player of the Week, his start of his big role. Deandre Ayton had a huge game against the Pistons and really started to build that momentum going into that next night back-to-back against the Jazz, where we got that 1-point win with a crucial offensive rebound from Deandre Ayton. And Booker, he kind of struggled in those past 3 games shooting-wise. Some of his decision-making was a little bit odd on the offensive end, but great players, you can't hold them down for very long. And on the 28th, we saw him come out and just absolutely dominate with 44 points. Did it on all ends of the floor, 6 steals as well. And Damian Lee, I keep saying his name, man, had 3 crucial 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. And this team has just been on a roll. I mean, last time we did a recap, we were 5th in the Western Conference, and now we find ourselves at the top of the standings. Only a 1-game lead, but it still is early, so things are flushing around right now. But Chris, I want to know what you've been seeing from this team over the past couple of weeks.
Absolutely, man. And just to look at maybe a high-level overview, but first I want to start off with that guy, Damian Lee, who you're talking about. It seems like you can always count on him for a 3-pointer. They're reliable, shooting a pretty good percentage. Over this span of the last 7 games, 10.1 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 1.7 assists. That's pretty much what you're asking of a role player at this point, and I will take it. Looking at some of these other guys in the same span of these 7 games, Devin Booker on fire, 30.4 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, and 6.1 assists per game. In that game against Utah, he damn near got a triple-double, posting 10 assists and 8 rebounds, I believe. But then some of these other guys, again, like just breaking it down high level over the last 2 weeks, stats wise, Deandre Ayton, you said it on the last recap we did. Deandre Ayton, it's his time, and he has stepped up to the call. 18.9 points per game, 12.6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Not to mention, yesterday on the 28th, he was named the Western Conference Player of the Week. So in a 3-game span to get that, he was averaging 23.7 points per game, 16 rebounds a game, and it had a 67.4 field goal percentage shooting. Now, we can look at all these stats in a vacuum and in a confined time period, 3 days, 7 games, 20 games, whatever it is. But we need to see Deandre Ayton do this over 82 games for the full season. And I hope that it stays the course, because Mike said Deandre Ayton, it's his time. And what I said is that the Suns need to be consistent. So we've seen them be consistent up to this point in the stretch since we last spoke to you guys, but we'll see what we're talking about on the next recap. I'm still remaining optimistic. I think they'll stay the course and continue to find success and win where they can. But I also expect that they're going to take a loss here and there. You know, this is to be expected. We're not going to set the franchise record for wins every season. But a few other guys I want to highlight just from the last 2 weeks here. Mikal Bridges, 16.9 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. Cam Payne stepping up to the plate, 15.7 points per game, 7.3 assists, and 2.3 rebounds per game. Man, just the guys you want to see step up, doing it, answering the call, and I just love to see it.
Right. And as you state, I mean, this team is already going through some injuries early. Cam Johnson is out for 1 to 2 months. Chris Paul is still not back with his heel injury. I have a feeling that that's just kind of preventative maintenance to keep him off the floor until we really need him to make sure that he's healthy for a deep playoff run. But instead of falling over in some games where you might be able to just chalk up a loss because it's, you know, a back-to-back or 4 games and 6 nights, this team just fights to the end and is starting to find ways to win. The really good thing for this team early is we've had a lot of home games and they've been very, very good at home. And the Kings game, it was good to see them get off on the right foot on the road, because we've been struggling on the road a little bit this year to start. But, I mean, you got to give the props to the guys that have been keeping this team going strong recently. 3 games, like you say, is in a vacuum, but DeAndre Ayton, once Amari Stoudemire comes out of your mouth, as a Suns fan, you got to make sure that you're bringing that kind of energy and effort to the table. And maybe Patrick Beverley and his push brought out the real dog in DeAndre Ayton. So hopefully the next time we see the Lakers, Pat Bev might go for his legs, not hurt him, but keep that energy going for the big fella. Damian Lee, he's averaging just under 3 threes in the last 7 games. Like you said, with that over 10-point average, he's just been hitting crucial buckets down the stretch, especially in that Kings game on Monday. He had some really, really key threes where momentum seemed to be shifting, and he'd hit one to give us back a 5-point lead. We were able to kind of capitalize on some of those things. I guess overall grand scheme of things too, it's not all perfect. I wish this team would get to the line a little bit more. Over the last 7, we've only averaged 16 free throws made, only 21 attempts. And we saw really low attempts in that Lakers game, only 5 and then 14 on Monday. But this team is shooting pretty decently from everywhere, it seems like. For 3-point percentage, over the last 7, we're shooting 38.1%, which is about 9th in the league overall for the season so far. And we're 10th overall in the league field goal percentage. So we're making our shots when we get them. And then our team defense, I keep praising it as well. These guys just communicate very well. I know, Chris, you did bring up that fact of the pick and roll against Sacramento on Monday. We struggled off of those high screens with those dives to the basket, but we made the adjustments when we needed to. And that's what we're seeing in the point differential. We're second in the league right now at plus 6.7. So this team is just going to have to keep filling its role when they're called upon. You know, we saw guys like Jock Landale, who was getting minutes in the mid-20s to start, and now he's kind of been put back to, you know, a 5 to 7 minute stint in the past couple of weeks. But Monty said last night after that game, he's very proud about the bench. And, you know, guys might not know when they're going to get in, but when they're called upon, they're stepping up to the plate. And that's what happens. Yeah. And that's what you see from good teams and a team that is at the top of the Western Conference right now.
Right where we belong. And taking it back, like you said earlier, we were 5th in the West last time we did one of these. And, you know, it is early season. A lot of these teams are really close going back and forth, but it's good progress. And you want to see us hold the top spot. There's a lot to look forward to. I have a lot of questions, like, is Devin Booker shooing for an all-star starter spot again? Now with the way Deandre Ayton playing, is he entering the conversation for possibly being in the all-star game? I know maybe Jokic is the write-in for center every year out of the West, but I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But last I want to say about the Suns and some recent updates in the last 2 weeks. Just on Monday, the 28th, James Jones was promoted to the president of basketball operations and general manager of the Phoenix Suns. I don't think this comes as a shock to anyone, but of course, congratulations to Mr. James Jones. Much deserved, as he has completely turned this franchise around. When he got here, we were a loser, hitting the rock bottom of where we had been at. And even with Devin Booker, and through the moves he's made and bringing in Monty Williams, it's just been incredible. And the transformation, I think it's a culture shift that's happened. And getting Robert Sarver out of here, in my opinion, might have been the final piece needed to really heal everything and start a new organization, really a new beginning, a new culture, like I said there. So very, very optimistic I am. We still don't have any news on Jay Crowder front. He's still a Phoenix Sun, but not playing. He's still sending cryptic tweets. Make sure you tune in to Pass the Outlet, as I'm sure we will be talking about that, as well as many other things. And you can also follow us to see anything about any Valley sports at AZ_VSP, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, right here on YouTube, Valley Sports Plug, and on Facebook. Of course, just go on to Google, type in Valley Sports Plug, and you will see all of our stuff right there. So, Mike, do you have anything else before we head out?
That's it. I'm excited to see what happens in these next 2 weeks, start getting some more momentum moving forward, start solidifying our spot. Now that we're at about the 25% mark of the season, you start to really flesh out who's going to be in that conversation for a playoff spot. So we got some big games coming up, especially the Bulls coming into town. I know they're not the best right now, but those are always fun games, especially with a lot of people who have Chicago ties here in the Valley. So that'll be some good energy at Footprint Center for sure.
Can't wait. And yeah, on that stretch, like you said, I'm seeing Dallas, our new rivals. And I also did want to say, it seems like we're creating a lot of rivals now with Pat Bev and the Clippers and Dallas, and Los Angeles is still trying, maybe Utah. It's been fun. The Suns seem to be the team that everybody loves to hate. But last I'll say on that, and looking forward to this stretch, New Orleans back-to-back, Boston, like I said, Dallas. So we'll see. Maybe we are still on top of the West next time, but you'll have to tune in to find out. So for Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick. We will see you in 2 weeks. Peace.